Good afternoon, Dr. Wei. My name is Jolin Tan, and my metri number is 304055. And now I would like to present about the Tangent Company, which my topic is a study on Tangent Holding Limited in China on its performance and its determinants. Now I will be start about the issue and problem. Although Tencent is a large and successful technology company, its financial performance may be affected by various internal and external factors. The changes in interest rate, economic conditions, and company financial management can influence its profitability. Therefore, it is unclear which factor that has the greatest impact on Tencent return on asset, which is ROA. Now, I will start with the hypothesis development. The hypothesis one is firm-specific factors affect tangent ROA. Number two is macroeconomic factors affect the tangent ROA. And the last hypothesis is the combination of firm-specific and macroeconomic factors affect tangent ROA. Okay, next is the research objective of my project. The first is to determine the impact of first specific factors on ROA performance. The second is to determine the impact of macroeconomic factors on ROA. And the last is to determine the impact of first specific factors and macroeconomic factors on ROA. Next is my research question. My first research question is, does the impact of first specific factors affect the performance of determine the factors that affect ROA performance at tangents? Does the impact of macroeconomic factors affect performance of determine the factors that affect ROA performance of tangent? And the last is, does the impact of first specific and macroeconomic factors affect performance of determine the factors that ROA performance of tangent? Since my assignment is related to corporate governance, well, let me introduce what is corporate governance. Corporate governance refers to the system of rules, practice, and process by which a company is directed and controlled. It ensures accountability, fairness, and transparency in a company relationship with its stakeholders, including the shareholders, management, employee, and regulators. Good corporate governance is crucial for sustaining investor of confidence and enhancing firm performance, while poor governance can lead to financial mismanagement and increased risk of corporate failure. Well, how corporate governance measure in the past studies? According to Schaefer and Wesley, corporate governance can be assessed through the compositions and effectiveness of the board of directors, shareholders' rights, and transparency in financial reporting. The Corporate Governance Index, which is CG Index, developed by Gombers, Ishii, and Matrix, measures governance qualities using factors such as board independence, CEO qualities, and shareholder protection. In this corporate governance, there are three factors that affect the ROA. Well, in my assignment, the internal factors examined in this study include liquidity risk, credit risk, operational risk, and corporate governance index, which are measured using financial ratios such as current ratio, debt to income ratio, operating margin, and corporate index. While the external factors are based on macroeconomics, which is interest rate, GDP, unemployment rate, exchange rate, and foreign direct investments, which is FDI, and affect the firm profitability. In the methodology, I'm using three methods to make this, which is the sample and data, analysis method, and regression model. In the sample and data, the sample is the tangent company, and I'm using 10 years observation, which is 2015 until 2024. The dependence variables are return on asset ROA, and the independence variables are the internal factors, external factors, and the combined internal and external factors. In the analysis method, the technique I use is OLS, which is ordinary least square multiple linear regression, and the software I'm using is the SPSS. In the regression model, I'm using three models. The model one is the internal factor, which is address the research objective one, and the second is the model two, the external factors that address research objective two, and model three combine internal and external factors which address research objective three. This is the example of the regression method that I'm using for my assignment. Well, this is the for the model one internal factor film specific. While using this method, I will determine my objective, then I will input the variables in the SPSS. When the result is come out, I can find the result and conclude it. Then this is continue for the module 2, which is the external factors macroeconomics, where I also using SPSS to getting my result. And lastly, this is the module 3, which is the combined internal and external factors. Now I will be more focusing on my module 3. Let's start with the descriptive statistic. The image from my right hand side is the descriptive statistic result that I get from the SPSS. Let's start with the performance. The mean ROA reflects tangent efficiency in using its asset to generate profit. Based on my 10 years data, the ROA shows a fluctuating trend but remains generally positive. In the internal variables, the factors like the current ratio and operating margin show how liquidity and operational efficiency vary. For instance, the current ratio often hovers around a level that indicated the company's ability to cover short-term obligations. In the external variables, the macroeconomic indicators such as GDP growth, interest rate, and inflation show the volatility of Chinese market environment. The standard deviation for GDP and interest rate highlight the economic shift tension faced over the decade. And the next one is the correlation analysis. This is the data that I get in when I input in the SPSS. Well, in the data, I can see that the most significant relationship is there is a strong positive correlation between operating margin and ROA. This suggests that as Tangent core business operation become more efficient at controlling costs, the overall return on asset increase significantly. While the non-significant relationship is the inflation rate, it shows a very weak and non-significant correlation with ROA. This implies that Tangent high margin digital business model is somewhat resilient to general price increase in the economy. Next is the ANOVA. In this data, I can see that the model is statistically significant with p-value of 0.069, while slightly above 0.05. In many social science contexts, this indicated the model has a moderate fit and the independent variables collectively provide a meaningful explanation for the variance in ROA. Next is the module summary, which is the adjusted R-squared. Well, the module 3 is the most powerful model on the study. It gets the highest adjusted R-squared, suggesting that approximately 60% of the variance in the tangent ROA can be explained by the combination of liquidity and macroeconomic factors. Lastly is the regression coefficients and findings. In this data, the most significant variables is the interest rate, which is the p-value equals to 0.017. The interest rate has a significant influence on ROA. For a massive debt firm like Tangent, interest rate affect the cost of capital. When the rate rise, the cost of borrowing for expansion increase, and the discounted present value of future cash flow may decrease. In the research indicated that for technology-intensive firms, interest rate hikes often leads to tighter liquidity and reduced investment in R&D, which eventually impacts the return on asset. The finding confirms that the tangent is sensitive to the monetary policy environment in China, while the second influence is the current ratio. Maintaining a healthy liquidity level is crucial. Even though it was a less significant than the interest rate, it represents the buffer tangent used to navigate periods of economic volatility. Now is the conclusion of my assignment. The 10 years analysis of Tangent reveals that the company financial performance measured by return on assets is most effectively explained by a combination of internal liquidity and external macroeconomic stability rather than firm-specific factors alone. The Module 3 emerged as the most powerful explanatory framework, achieved the highest adjusted R-square, and highlight that while internal efficiency matters, the interest rate is the most significant individual determinant, which is the p-value equals to 0.07, is influencing the tangent profitability. For the last part, which is recommendation. Well, my first recommendation is to develop the AI-driven receivable management. It is to address the high volatility in the industry collection period. Tangent should leverage its AI expertise to automate credit assessment and collections. This will stabilize cash flow and provide a competitive edge in cash conversion efficiency over peers with systematic inefficiencies. While the last recommendation is elevate the liquidity buffer. While the current ratio is industry standard, it leaves little room for error given the high debt-driven returns and volatile interest rate. Aiming for a current ratio above 1.5 will create a defensive most against market shocks and provide the financial flexibility to acquire distracted assets while competitors remain liquidity constrained. That's all for my presentation today. Thank you.